Hello, everybody. My name is Evan.
And I'm Jonathan.
And you are listening to the Tackling Basketball Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, we have a busy agenda here today. We got our standard GOAT and Dick of the Week. We'll be talking about the NBA Finals, NFL, and standings predictions, as well as our classic betting unit. As always, though, we'll kick it off with GOAT and Dick of the Week. And Jonathan, who is your GOAT of this week?
My GOAT of this week is fans of small market teams. You and I have said for a little while that we are going to run sort of a small market-minded podcast here, so it's really a fan of the show is the winner this week, with both the Denver Nuggets and the Miami Heat making the NBA Finals over the Los Angeles Lakers and the Boston Celtics. Oh my goodness, is this a nightmare for Adam Silver and for those money-grubbing folks out in those bigger markets? But it is such a fantastic time to be a fan, especially of these teams where you get to sort of watch as they break into the limelight for the first time in a long time. I mean, think about, I'm a Nuggets fan, so I'm going to cover their perspective a little bit more heavily, but Heat are the same situation where like the Nuggets have had the MVP in back-to-back years, and only like the last couple of days have stories been coming out of the woodworks about how this team was built, and like it's kind of funny like seeing 4-year-old stories pop up on my timeline, and I like look at the date and it's like, no, that was posted this morning. They just now found out that the Aaron Gordon trade was good, I guess. But it's nice to see coverage from national media towards these smaller markets, and it's just really exciting to be able to watch two genuinely entertaining teams be able to battle in the finals. So,
yeah, good call out. And of course, I'm hoping as a Blazers fan that we will be adding a third small market to the mix of good small market teams next year, but not holding out hope. We'll see what happens. And then my GOAT of the week, Caleb Martin. Caleb Martin was absolutely fantastic for the Heat in their series versus the Celtics. And he's one of the guys, I mean, there's plenty of guys on the Heat roster that if you read their name, you may wonder to yourself, who the heck is that? Even as a consistent NBA fan. Caleb was one of those guys, but he shined in this past series. He was an undrafted guy out of college, was waived by the Hornets in 2021, picked up by the Heat on a two-way in 2021, and now just dominated the Eastern Conference Finals and was one vote away from being the MVP in the series. So, way to go, Caleb Martin. Congratulations. The dude looks like he's going to be sticking around the league for a long time. So, way to go, Caleb.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little scary for a Nuggets fan because the last couple of years we've largely been eliminated by like that fifth option who broke out, and seeing it happen just one round before the finals to the Celtics, I'm hoping that we're able to spread our defense well enough to cover their the depth of this Miami Heat team. But he certainly has been impressive. But on to my Dick of the Week now. I'm going with it's kind of a slow news week, so it's hard to find one, and I wanted to stay relevant to the biggest news of the week, which is the NBA Finals happening soon. So I picked Miami Heat's rebounding, and I think that part of their game is why that series went to 7. I mean, you look at just some horrible efforts from that team on rebounding, especially from Bam Adebayo has not been putting up any effort on the glass, and it very evidently cost them Game 6. The final play of the game was a tip-in basket with only 2 of their team members boxing out. But throughout the entire series, we've seen them switch every single pick and roll, send Bam Adebayo out to defend the three-point line, and then when the shot goes up and Bam's already out of the play, he sort of like floats down towards the offensive side, not trying to collect the rebound at all. And he's really their like best shot at getting defensive and offensive boards is when he's involved on that. So they're going to have to do some adjustments before the Nuggets series because Aaron Gordon and Nikola Jokic love to grab misses and put them back up. And if they are executing the same strategies as the Celtics and finding Bam out on the three-point line and he's not crashing the boards, then the Nuggets will feast. And, yeah. The only reason they went to Game 7. So, props to them for closing it out there. But they're going to need to figure something out.
For sure. Bam. Got to step it up, buddy. Over to my dick of the week. Like Jonathan said, it was slow. So I'm going to pull out a team from the Premier League for soccer, and there may not be a lot of soccer fans on here, but this tidbit of information is fun. So my dick of the week is Arsenal. For those who don't know Premier League very well, Arsenal has been in the Premier League for a long, long time. One of the biggest names in the Premier League. They're actually owned by Stan Kroenke, who also owns the Nuggets and the Rams and the Abs, bunch of sports teams. Arsenal this year wound up finishing second in the Premier League, and they finished second after being in first place for 97% of the season. Yikes.
Yeah.
The English term is that they bottled the Premier League, which is essentially, in American terminology, is that they blew it at the end of the season. In their last five games, they didn't pick up a single win, I don't believe, and just totally screwed themselves over. So, in a slow news week, we'll go with Arsenal for Dick of the Week.
Yeah, it's a decent pick, and the very, very little I care about soccer, I'm an Arsenal fan because of Kroenke, so it stings a little bit, but also, again, the very, very little that I've been a true fan, they've always done this, so
yeah.
Yeah, it's just Arsenal.
Yes, classic Arsenal. But now, over to discussion that the people who actually watch this podcast will likely care about more, which is the NBA Finals. And we don't have a ton of structure for this, but we'll start out with very simple question. Jonathan, who do you have winning the series, and in how many games will that team be taking home the Larry O'Brien trophy?
Yeah, I mean, I am certainly biased on this. I am certainly ecstatic to see my Denver Nuggets in their first ever NBA Finals appearance. And I'm also, this is one of the few instances in recent memory that I am not very afraid. A lot of the reason is the way that we match up against the Heat. I think that our biggest defensive problem is obviously Jimmy Butler, but that we are likely having Aaron Gordon guard him, and Michael Malone, sort of subtly revolutionizing pick-and-roll defense this season, is going to do well. I believe we have a couple of defenders who can sort of fill in that hole, and the ones who can't, if Jokic gets switched on to Jimmy, then this team is pretty good at adjusting, and I think that the foul line will be the biggest enemy with Jimmy Butler. But we will see what happens there. I think that, like I said, Heat need to focus on their rebounding. They need to fix that. They need to not switch on every single pick. And just they do a little bit of defensive mix-ups with sort of switching into that 2-3 zone at times. But the Nuggets know how to beat that as well. They're going to need to formulate a very specific game plan, which I'm sure they will. But and then you look at just recent history with the Nuggets have beat the Heat in their last 6 matchups, and they haven't lost to the Heat at home in, 5 or 6 years now. So the Vegas has this heavily favored for the Nuggets, and I'd have to agree. I think it's going to be, just to stick with my bold take at the very end of last episode, the Nuggets will have lost 4 total games by the end of this postseason. So, Nuggets in 5.
I like it. I agree. I have Nuggets as well. I'm probably going to go with Nuggets in 6. Just to give the
I think
Heat,
that's fair.
The Heat are scrappy enough. I think they'll be able to scrape together a couple of games. Can never really count out Jimmy buckets, and especially with the way the guys like Caleb Martin are playing, and even Max Strus has been a bit of a game changer for the Heat. But with that being said, in your mind, who are kind of the guys that we need to watch out for in the series outside of the obvious? So, like, of course, everybody knows, Jokic, Jamal are going to play a huge role in the series for the Nuggets, and then Butler and Adebayo for the Heat are going to be big guys. But who do you think are the guys from each team that are really going to be kind of the game changers of this series?
Yeah, I think on the defensive end, you're going to be looking at, obviously, Bam Adebayo to see what he's able to do to slow down Jokic and how he's able to handle when he gets switched on to other matchups. Having him running in that sort of center spot in the zone is a really good option to clog the lane, but at the same time, this team will be able to beat them on the outside if they go that route. So Bam Adebayo on defense is going to be an interesting matchup. On the other side, I think defensively as well, you're looking at KCP and Aaron Gordon as the two big ones to sort of try and slow down Jimmy Butler. I'm going to see a lot of the Nuggets like to do a lot of pre-switching when they see a screen coming to sort of try and determine the rotation ahead of time, get ahead of the offense, and try and offset some of the weaknesses that can come from the pick and roll defense. And I think I'm going to look heavily to see KCP sort of pre-switching onto Jimmy frequently. And we're going to have to see how well he is able to handle that matchup. I think that he is the next best defender equipped to handle that role, but it's still a huge ask. Jimmy Butler's a beast on offense, so... and then on the offensive side, I look at Caleb Martin, obviously, to see if he's able to continue that hot streak from these last couple of games. And also, I look at Michael Porter Jr., not only as a shooter, but like I mentioned, and I'm going to keep hammering this point home until I see the Heat make adjustments, on the offensive boards, Michael Porter Jr. can be potent when he needs to. So I want to see him hitting the offensive boards hard, going for these second chance points, as well as because of that threat, watching defenders drop cover him a little bit, and he gets some open looks in the corner. So those are my big matchups and players to watch outside of the obvious. Who have you got, Evan?
Yeah, I mean, you name most of them. Again, Caleb Martin is going to be huge for the Heat. I think big thing to watch out for is Tyler Hero. Whenever he is able to make his return to the lineup for the Heat, he is going to play a massive factor for that team. I mean, this season he's been a huge piece for them. Has been very consistent offensively, and could really be a game changer for them if he's able to come back soon. Most projections that we see seems like people are saying he'll be back for Game 3, which is a bit unfortunate for the Heat that they're going to be without him for the first 2 games. But hopefully he'll be able to come back and make an impact for them. And then Max Strus. I mean, he not quite at the same level as Caleb Martin in the Celtics series, but I think he did a great job of facilitating that Heat offense and also scoring when they needed him to. And I'm really looking for him to kind of continue that in the series. And then for the Nuggets, I think you pretty much hit on everybody. It'll be interesting to see, like you said, if the Heat are able to contain Jokic and Jamal at all, if guys like Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter will be able to step up and take kind of that scoring lead instead. Because there's a very good chance that the Heat wind up having Jimmy Butler guard Jamal Murray to try and shut him down. And Jimmy is a pretty darn good defender, so I think he would be able to do that fairly decently, I would say. But that would leave MPJ and Aaron Gordon open to do kind of whatever they want. So we'll have to see how they bounce back.
It's going to be an exciting series. Yeah, I'm sure we'll cover it more every single week as the games go on, but I'm just excited for this thing. Gonna be at game one on Thursday. Can't wait to see the first ever Nuggets finals game, but man, it's surreal.
Yeah, and we'll make sure that Jonathan's live tweeting the game and everything for your enjoyment.
I will not. My eyes will be on the court.
But with that, we'll transition on over to the NFL. So this is going to be kind of a new segment for us over the next about 9 weeks. We're going to go through and do essentially record predictions for every single team. Well, we're going to go division by division. This week we'll be starting with the AFC West, and then over the next 8 weeks we'll do every single division. The 9th week we'll round it out by talking about wild cards, and then also giving a look at, based off of our predictions, who's gonna wind up with the top 10 picks in the draft next year and where a team's going to shake out there. But like I said, for this week, we'll start with the AFC West. Jonathan, who is topping the division in the AFC West for you this year? I believe it's obvious, but here we go.
Yeah, it's definitely obvious. I've got the Chiefs at the top of the division, and it's kind of the feeling of they should win every game. I'm not sure there's going to be a single game this year that they are not favored in. And I sort of, obviously, we went through and picked every single game for every single team. I sort of found myself having to, talk myself into a little bit of a story for a couple of losses. And I was able to talk myself up to 4 losses for the Chiefs, so 13-4. I haven't filled out the rest of the league yet, but I'm anticipating that'll probably be the number 1 seed in the AFC. Of course, it's a really it's somewhat of a tough, scrappy division. I won't say a really tough one. There's certainly better divisions right now in football, especially considering the Raiders are in this one. The Broncos have a lot of volatility. The Chargers tend to sort of fall apart at the end of every year, but yeah, so I have not much to discuss on the Chiefs. They are the best team. What do you got, Evan?
Yeah, I also have the Chiefs at a 13-4 record. I have them going 4-2 in division with losses to the Broncos and Chargers on the road. I think the Chargers and Broncos should be better this year. Chargers with their new offensive coordinator, I think, will be better. I think they'll be able to take some games. Chargers, I also have the Chargers winning in Week 17, and by that time, there's a good chance the Chiefs will kind of shut down a lot of their starters because they will likely have already secured the 1 seed. And then I have them also losing to the Jags in Week 2 just because, kind of like last season, they lost pretty much their main wide receivers this offseason. And what we saw last year is that it took a couple of weeks for their offense to get back to firing on all cylinders. Jaguars improved this offseason, so I see the Jags at home being able to take it to the Chiefs in Week 2 and come out of there with a win. And then I have them losing to the Bills, too, in Week 14, simply just because, the Chiefs are almost, in a way, turning into what the Warriors were, where it's almost like they have this mindset of, well, as long as we make the playoffs, we'll get to the playoffs, then we'll turn it up a notch and go through and beat everybody. And it just almost feels like all these other teams are out to prove themselves against the Chiefs, whereas the Chiefs don't really have anything to prove, so they don't need to turn it up into that extra gear. So I think the Bills will be able to take them down in Week 14.
Yeah, very nice. I didn't cover my division for the Chiefs. I had the Chiefs going 5-1 actually in this division. I do see them as a very dominant team, and I think that sort of is repeated here. I only have a away loss to the Broncos in there. Snuck in a couple of extra losses. Actually, at home against the Dolphins. I think that this Dolphins defense is stifling this year, able to sort of defend on all 3 levels, and they also have a coordinator who is not stupid, which is not very common against Mahomes, actually. A lot of people think that you play quarters defense against Mahomes and then it'll shut him down, but it really doesn't. You just have to take what you can get. A loss at home again versus the Eagles, who have bolstered both sides of the ball this offseason, had an incredible draft. Obviously, also replaced a couple of their coordinators, which I think the defensive coordinator was a bit of a problem in that Super Bowl loss by the Eagles. So, and then their final loss coming at home again against the Bills. So, actually, 3 of their 4 losses that I have at home, but that's mostly a product of they're playing some of the best teams at home. So,
yeah, very fair. Well, on to our runner-up in the division. Jonathan, who do you have taking second place in the AFC West?
Yeah, I've got the Broncos here. The Broncos are a team that are going to make half of everybody look brilliant and half of everybody look stupid. And we don't know which half is which yet. Because either they figure it out on offense, they get Russ back, they sort of get some of these pieces integrated and working the way they were supposed to last year, and they find a lot of great success, or they do none of that and are a bottom 5 team in the league. I have more faith in Sean Payton being able to turn this around. I have more faith in the idea that Hackett was horrible at running this offense and the kind of offense that Russ needed, and I have more faith in the idea that Russell Wilson is going to be willing to be coached again, whereas last year he sort of wanted to take the reins and he wanted to become a pocket passer. I think that he's hopefully learned his lesson here, and if all of these things that I think will happen do happen, then I have the Broncos going 11-6 on the year. 4-2 within the division with road losses. Wait, 4-2. Oh yeah, they sweep the Raiders and then split with the Chiefs and the Chargers, and then additional losses coming against the Jets with their new Aaron Rodgers-led offense, the Bills, of course, because it's the Bills. Browns, I have taken a big step up this year, and they match up really well against this Broncos team. If I didn't mention it already, lost at the Dolphins. And that rounds out the list of losses. A couple of impressive wins, obviously, at home against the Chiefs is huge. On the road against the Bears is good. At home against the Packers and Vikings are 2 huge wins for the Broncos that they're going to need to capitalize on if they want to find much success this year. But, yeah, I have the Broncos going 11-2 and most likely making the playoffs. We'll have to see when I finish ranking everyone else, but I would be shocked if that's not good enough for a wild card spot.
Yeah. In my second place, I actually have the Los Angeles Chargers at a 10-7 record. I have them going 3-3 in the division and splitting every single series. And during their season, I don't really have them having any major marquee wins other than taking down the Chiefs at home. I have them losing on the road to the Vikings, losing on the road to the Chiefs, losing on the road to the Aaron Rodgers-led Jets, losing at home to Baltimore, losing at home to Denver, losing on the road to the Raiders, losing at home to the Bills. So I think the Raiders are going to have a kind of up and down season, which is very classic. Or the Chargers will have an up and down season, which is classic Chargers. I do think their offense this year will be better with their new offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. He has made the Dallas Cowboys look very good the last couple of seasons, and I think he'll be able to come into the Chargers organization and help out a lot. I don't have a ton of confidence in Brandon Staley, however. I think he's holding that team back a little bit. And then poor Justin Herbert. Saw a video a couple of days ago where some guy went through and assessed every one of his interceptions from the past year, and legitimately, and I watched it along with him, only one of the interceptions was Justin Herbert's fault. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I guess it's a matter of an opinion sometimes, on those. But I mean, he had 5 interceptions where he literally just threw it too hard and it bounced off his receiver's hands and was intercepted. And like, catch the ball. So, but I have Chargers in second place in the division at 10-7.
Very nice. Yeah, Chargers are another hard one for me to peg down because, like, on paper they look really good. Their defense is pretty well rounded with a decent pass rush, a decent decent secondary. I think that what they are lacking a little bit is the run defense. So I have them eating a few losses to teams that can run the ball a little bit better. And I think they're also they still have yet to figure out how to win in close games. And at the tail end of the season, they don't seem to have that dog in them to be able to make pushes. And that I don't doubt that will change at some point soon. But I did factor that into my current predictions and have them actually going just 7-10 to be the third team in the AFC West. Ironically, I have them tied with the Broncos at the end of Week 14 at 7-6, and then I have them taking 4 straight losses to end out the year. It's a really, really difficult stretch playing in Las Vegas, which probably should be a win, but I think that they are going to struggle to sort of slay some of those demons that they have from a couple of seasons ago in a similar loss. Then they're playing at home against the Bills, which is just an incredible team. On the road against the Broncos, which it's a tough stadium to win in always, and especially when the Broncos are motivated and making this playoff push at the end. I have them pulling it out. And then at home against the Chiefs, which is another incredible team, one that I said should be favored in every single game. So a tough skid for the Chargers at the end of the season to finish 7-10, division record of only 2-4, and more than likely missing the wild card.
Yeah, meanwhile, I have the Broncos third in the division, and I have them also going 10-7, just like the Chargers, 3-3 in the division. So I have Chargers and Broncos essentially tying for second place in the division. Broncos splitting the series with every single team. I have them losing on the road to the Dolphins, losing on the road to the Chiefs, losing on the road to the Bills, losing at home to the Vikings, losing on the road to the Lions, and then losing on the road to the Raiders to round out the season. A lot of those teams, Dolphins are up-and-coming team. They're a tough team to beat at home. Bills, not even sure that one needs an explanation. Chiefs don't really need an explanation. Vikings, I think the Vikings are a really tough team to beat. They showed that last year in tight games. They fight tooth and nail to come away with a victory. And if we witnessed anything from the Broncos last year, they were the total opposite of that. So hopefully that'll change, but I think the Vikings can take it. And then the Lions were taking steps in the right direction this past year. I wasn't a huge fan of their draft, but they still added some good pieces, and I think they're going to wind up being, once again, a tough team to beat this next year. So 10-7 for the Broncos.
I like it. Now on to the last team in this division, which we both very much agree on. It is the Raiders. I have them going 5-12 on the back of a pretty abysmal defense, especially the defensive secondary. And they have a great pass rush, admittedly, but a pass rush alone is not enough to stop anyone in this division, in my opinion. A 1-5 division record for me, just beating the Chargers once at home, and very few wins in between. Let's see. It might be easier to count the wins here. I have them winning at home against the Packers in Week 5. Just a team that's a little bit trying to find themselves again now that they have Jordan Love at the helm. A win in Detroit against the Lions. I think that we will find as we continue to do this. I don't have a ton of faith in the Lions this season. A win at home against the Giants, a win at home against the Chargers, as I mentioned, and a win in Indianapolis, trying to come in and beat this rookie quarterback and his rookie wide receiver tandem in the Colts. But yeah, just a team that has had a lot of turnover on offense and is still looking to find their legs defensively. And I don't think they'll put either side of the ball together this year.
Yeah, and I pretty much feel the exact same way. I also have the Raiders going 5-12, 2-4 in the division, picking up one win against the Broncos and one win against the Chargers. And like Jonathan did, it's far easier to count through their wins rather than their losses. I have them winning at home against the Steelers in Week 3. The Steelers, I don't have a lot of confidence in. Kenny Pickett looked okay last year, but I think that's a team that has a lot of work to do. I have them beating the Patriots at home in Week 6. Again, for similar reasons, I have little to no confidence in Mac Jones. That receiving core, as per usual, is not very good outside of Juju Smith-Schuster. I actually have the Raiders taking 2 in a row here, with them then winning in Week 7 in Chicago. I have zero confidence in the Bears. Justin Fields is really the only good thing going on for that team. I know they traded for DJ Moore and they got some receiver help. However, they failed to bolster their O-line. Their defense is still not fantastic. And I think the Raiders will be able to take that advantage of that a little bit. And then going a long time without a win until they beat the Chargers in Week 15 at home, followed by beating the Broncos in Week 18 at home as well. So, yeah, 5-12 for the Raiders. One of the bottom teams in the AFC. I actually don't have a single other team currently who has a worse record than that in the AFC. We'll see if that changes. But, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think that they are not necessarily the worst team in the league or even the AFC, but that their division and their outside of division schedule this year, too, does not do them any favors.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the AFC North this year, it's a little bit of a weaker division right now, and that sort of bolsters that division because each team's going to get a couple of division wins against each other. They also have fairly easy schedules outside of that, but because they are playing the AFC South this season as their like sort of round robin. But yeah, the Raiders will, in our opinion, find themselves pretty much at the bottom of the AFC.
Yeah, and this is probably the most difficult division to predict. As Johnson was alluding to, the Broncos are either going to sink or swim this year. I can see them going 10-7. Jonathan sees them going 11-6, but they also could very well wind up going 4-13, or 5-12. I mean, kind of in the same vein that they went. Please no. But and then the Chargers. I mean, the Chargers are the exact same way. I mean, the Chargers' offense is strong enough that they could come in and dominate. I don't see them being better than the Chiefs, but they could have a great record, or they can have a losing record. Raiders, however, more than likely bottom of the barrel, and then Chiefs, neither of us predicted it, but I could very well see the Chiefs going 17-0 or 16-1. I mean, if they really wanted to do it, they probably could. So it's such a weird and difficult division, similar to last year, to try and predict.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be a fun one to watch, though, I think, as we sort of see these storylines developing. But, yeah, not a lot of certainty here.
Well, over now to our final segment, our 100 units and 10,000 to 1 betting segment. Jonathan, how about you kick us off with your 100 units bet of the week?
Yeah, so a couple things that you should know about my betting before you decide to chase me this week, because I am on a hot streak of 5 straight 100 units bets hitting, but I also tend to bet on non-Nuggets games in this show, mainly because I will never, ever bet for something that I don't want to happen. So my bet obviously includes a Nuggets win. Take that at your own discretion. And this Nuggets win will come after a 10 or more point deficit. So the Heat will sort of punch them in the mouth, and then the Nuggets will come back to win it. I could probably do better by doing a live bet if I were to go this route with a lot less risk too. But that's not really an option for a podcast. So plus 400 odds. I'm putting down a quarter unit on that.
I like it. Meanwhile, for game one of the finals, I put together a small little parlay. I picked Denver Nuggets money line, Caleb Martin 15-plus points, Jokic 8-plus assists, and Bam 10-plus rebounds. That's at plus 410, and I put a quarter of a unit down on that one.
Not bad, not bad. All right, now for the 10,001, the long shot. I came so close to hitting the last 10,001, which was following Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals and Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. I called a double sweep, and the Heat messed it up at the last moment. Always cash out, folks. But yeah, for this week's 10,001, I've got just a first basket bet. It was really difficult for me to build a fun, reasonable parlay that also was favorable to the Nuggets and plus 10,000 because of the nature of the series. And as I said before, I'm never going to bet against the Nuggets. So I've got Aaron Gordon making the first basket as a three-pointer. That is exactly plus 10,000, and I'm just going a quarter unit.
I like it. I didn't have as much trouble because I don't have the same hold-up about betting in favor or not in favor of the Nuggets. So, of course, for mine, I went ahead and did Miami Heat money line, Caleb Martin over 17.5 points, Jokic over 28.5 points, MPJ over 19.5 points, and Bam over 9.5 rebounds. That gave me plus 25,003, and that's quarter of a unit down on that one as well.
Man, it really sucks to see your parlay break its first leg, but I suppose you do what you got to do to get it over 10,000, right?
Yeah, exactly. I had to take as many plus odd things as I could.
Oh, man. Well, I think that's all that we've got scheduled for today. Thanks for tuning in, and Evan, why don't you take us out?
We haven't gotten to this division yet, but I'm going to call it now. The Arizona Cardinals are going 0-17 next year.
Uh-oh. Thanks, everybody.
Good night.